Hey guys, really thrilled today. We've got a special guest, Hermione Hart from the Property Management Business and Mindset Coach. Hermione, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. Now, I've got a lot that I want to unpack with you, and we've been talking off air about mental health, wellness, mindset, and basically getting yourself ready for what's going to be hopefully a epic 2023. So before we get into it, I suppose, why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so very interesting. You sort of start with like an epic 2023 because I've just been doing a lot of replanning for myself and my business. So to date, I've been like trying to do a lot of different things and trying to achieve a lot of different things. And for me, I've really taken some time out to rejig what it is that I do. So it's an interesting question for that at this particular point in time.
Yeah.
And will be some of the advice that I suggest to people is actually sometimes you just got to pause and take stock. So for me, I've been in property management for, I worked in property management. I think I've been around for like 19 years. I can't remember. I'm probably showing my age now. But I worked in
18 years as well. It's fine.
worked in property management, and then I worked in real estate software, and then I've been working as like a real estate coach and trainer. Done like workshops and keynote speaking, all of those sort of things. And I've been trying to do like all the things, right? Like, just because that's what you do, right? You try and do all the things. And then throughout last year, I've got some like chronic health issues, like some autoimmune stuff going on. And I quickly realized that trying to do all of the things was actually negatively impacting my health. And when my health isn't great, obviously, then relationships like struggle and suffer and all of those sorts of things. So I realized throughout last year that I needed to make changes for myself in how I showed up and run businesses and how I approached it strategically so that I could live my life healthily and happily, as well as, you know, being successful, because it is possible to have both. So in a nutshell, what I do now is for me, myself, I work specialized with like business owners who are starting up property management agencies and helping them to scale and grow as a business and mindset mentor. And then I own a business called Sidekick, which is just a home of short courses and resources for property management people. And I can now see a clear path to how I can do that like sustainably this year without killing myself in the process, pretty much.
Okay, so there's a lot there that a lot of it we're going to unpack and talk about. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is, and like I said off air, I've spoken with a couple of people over the last couple of days, week or so, and I'm sure you have as well. It's been a couple of big years. And especially last year was a big year. A lot of people don't feel like they've had the break that they probably need to come back and give it their all in 2023. It seems like it was just that we all finished up for Christmas. For someone who doesn't have that spark or that energy, or they haven't had the break to come back fully fresh, ready to go, what would your advice to them be today that they can do to get that spark back? Or
I mean, I think the first thing is to just have a bit of self-compassion for yourself, right? Because as you say, like we the way that I see it, like we came off the back of those big years, pandemic. I don't want to spend any more time talking about that than we just have then. Close case on that one. Anyway, but after that, I think like we just came out into life and we were like, go, you know, like we can do stuff, we can work, we can see our friends and family. And so quickly our calendars just went like poof, like completely exploded. And then so I think like on top of all the stress, and then we've added all these extra commitments and achievements and things that we've done. For a lot of us, it has been really strong, but like we had like the little week over Christmas, like it's not enough to rest and recharge, right? Like we need to actually, it's like you need to like unplug your phone and then like recharge it to a full battery before it could like function properly, so to speak. So it's like we haven't had that. We've had like a little few days for some of us, and like for me, those few days were filled with my kids at home and people coming over. Like it wasn't like lying on a beach drinking cocktails for 2 weeks.
Correct. So I think the other thing too that you put up the other day, and it resonated with me, was about goals and setting goals for the year. Now there's a lot that's going around out there as far as there's different kinds of people. Some that are gonna go, hammer and tongs at it. Some that, success in business is absolutely everything. And also for others, it's the family and personal life and well-being and all that kind of thing. Where's your view as far as goals and where people should probably be focusing this year? Let me ask you this way. Do you need the big goals to be successful?
I think it's like, this is the word where the word should kind of like should probably be taken out of the vocabulary there.
Yeah.
Because I think that like there are different kinds of people, and there are different people who value being completely successful based on a goal, right? Like based on achieving a certain goal or status. And I think that then there's a huge amount of the rest of us who are maybe like we are motivated by that, but maybe there's actually some other things in life that are more important to us, like that we value, right? But we sort of see these other people and like that's their goal and they're achieving big things, so I should be doing that too. And we push and we push and we push, and we get out of alignment with ourselves and what it is that we really value.
So does that mean because we've created now, regardless of what your end goal is, we've made the goals too big to, I suppose, achieve? Are they too big, or should they, like, how does someone set a goal, whether they are big goals or whether they're small, to make them achievable? Because I imagine that, I know with me that I set small goals. I don't have the big, look, I've got the big goals, but unless I do the small day-to-day things, we're not going to get there. Now that can include a million different things. It can be breakfast in the morning. It can be getting up, going for a walk, whatever it is. What's the best way, I suppose, to set goals, whether they're big or small, to ensure that you're going to smash them?
Yeah, I think that there's probably a small distinction there between like I like to sort of think about, like, you can have like a longer term bigger vision, right? Whether that's for your life or your business or your results, say for a year, right? But typically goals are something that it's kind of more shorter term that we'd really be sort of looking to walk towards. Like I really like setting, like I say, a quarterly goal, right? Like what am I focused on these next few months, right? It allows us to then work at something that's achievable, and maybe that quarterly goal is like a quarter of your annual goal, of course. But it allows us to make it a bit more manageable. And then when we've actually got the goal in place, it's working out, say, what are the top 3 most important things that I need to do to achieve it? What then are the behaviors and actions that are like maybe even like the behaviors or steps that I would need to take to achieve each of those 3 things? Then, well, how would I go and implement it? Do I need to put those things in my calendar, in my routine? And then also layering in and going, well, what are the blockages, right? And then this is where you get down into your like mindset around it, because maybe it's like, well, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy. So you can then start to go, okay, well, what do I need to do to be able to achieve that goal? Well, maybe it's actually, I need to actually focus on my mindset and energy and self-belief. So then it's like, okay, well, then what do I need to do to support that? Is there learning I need to go and do? Is there coaching I need to get? Is there friendship and resources that I need to rely upon to be able to achieve those things? Is it, wow, I actually need to create myself some time and energy so I can focus on that? Because if you look at that big that goal that you've set yourself for the quarter, and instead of it lighting you up, it's giving you that sense in your body, right? Like, and you'll feel it somewhere in your gut or in your chest, and you'll feel like, that feels not aligned. Like, that does not feel good for me right now.
So, and that leads me to the next question. So for someone that's overwhelmed, and it's going to happen, you can have the best strategies, best plan, all that kind of thing in the world. But for someone that's feeling overwhelmed, the reaction to how you react to that is just as big as setting the goals themselves. Would that be correct? So imagine how, for someone who is overwhelmed, what is the best way to get out of it?
I feel so silly always saying this, but like, if it's really like you're stressed and overwhelmed in your body, the first thing before you go and like plan it all out is you need to feel regulated.
Okay.
Right. So you're saying like, oh, we're all burnt out, we're all exhausted, right? Like if I sit down in my coaching sessions with someone who shows up and they're completely exhausted and overwhelmed, and I sit there and like, great, what's our goals? Let's go, like boom, boom, boom. like their nervous system, like how they're regulated right now, like that's, as I said, that's not going to light them up. It's not going to feel good. So my first step in people I work with, and what I would suggest for anyone, is we need to work out how to get your self-regulated first, right? Then that's your energy and how you're feeling in yourself.
Right.
So how do you calm yourself down? How do you get yourself more energy? How do you make yourself feel more rested and recharged?
Yeah.
And potentially it's looking at, well, what are the things I need to do either like immediately in this 5 minutes or over the next week and month and quarter to bring that into my life. And that might be different for each person. That might be exercising each day. It might be going to yoga. It might be, doing breath work and breathing. It might be journaling. It might be reading. It might be getting more sleep. That's a very big one. Being more hydrated. That's another big one. Most of us are chronically dehydrated all the time. That's why we're so exhausted.
Yes.
So it's like often if we can calm ourselves and regulate ourselves, then we can actually start to then say, like, what are the problems or what are the goals? And then like literally write them all down. Like if you've got a whole bunch of stresses and problems in your life, literally calm yourself and then write them all down. Just that process of writing them all down will create some shift for you.
Okay. And what are you seeing at the moment? What are the most common issues or problems or, things that people are facing at the moment?
I think it's for most of us, and it doesn't matter really whether people are in real estate or not. Like this happens in conversations with my friends and my family members. It's like, I think it's this, everyone has filled up their life so much that there is no downtime. There is no recharge and rest time in our lives because we're so scheduled with commitments, and quite often the thing that we need the most is a break. And for some of us, it might be like, oh, well, like I can't take a break. I don't have time to take a break. If you're saying that, like this is the exact thing that you need right now. And I literally did this today. I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and I couldn't think clearly. I was trying to get this thing sorted for tomorrow. Yeah. And luckily my partner reminded me, no, go work out. Like, and I just sat on the bike for half an hour, calm my nervous system, regulate it, and then I could approach it with a fresh pair of eyes.
That's a really good point that you've made, as far as we are so booked in and scheduled and all that kind of stuff. And I keep hearing it. And as you know, I'm, mad for TikTok. I keep seeing all the gym stuff that you do have 15 minutes a day. And I kind of feel like, come and live my life and then tell me where I can fit that 15 minutes in. But it's how, for someone who either don't have the time or don't feel they have the time, what's your suggestion to that, or recommendation for that? Should they book in time in their schedule if they are a scheduled person for rest and relaxation? And what does that rest and relaxation look like? Does it come down to, what are the top things that you see for people to de-stress? Because you predominantly work in property management, and that is a highly stressful job. How can these guys make sure that they have adequate amount of downtime?
Like it's hard, especially when if you're working, if you've got kids and like all sorts of other commitments, right? Like it is hard. And like, I've already sort of said a couple of those ideas, but really it's going to come down to the individual. Like I might say, like for me, I recharge by time to myself. Right. Okay. Like I need no one to talk to me for like a little period of time, like for me to recharge. And it's even actually at the start of the day. Like I need 10 minutes, or I can just, it's almost like I'm booting up. Yep. I need that time for me to feel calm and regulated. Right. But I know, like I was taking someone the other day, and for them, like they recharge through social interaction. Okay. Like their recharge is having some social time with their friends. Like, whereas if I'm tired and exhausted, I couldn't think of anything worse. I'm like, no, leave me alone. Don't talk to me. Right. But that's important for her. So it's really starting to bring awareness to what works for you as an individual. And like half the time when I have these conversations, if I say, oh, like what rests and recharges you, people are like, oh, I don't know. Like the last time they asked themselves that question was probably like never, or like no one's ever asked them that before. So it's like, maybe that's the first question to ask. What works for you as an individual to rest and recharge you? It might be boxing, it might be yoga, like it might be, there's different things will feel fill us up.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to come back to your point around like, well, then how do you do it? Like, do you literally have to schedule your downtime? Like for me, I sort of do. Like I literally have to, like, I sit down at the start of the week and I like, at the moment, if you look at my calendar, it's like I can see when I'm booked in to go to yoga. Like I can see that's when I'm going to go sit on the bike. I can see like I've actually got like that's what I'm going to do, like a meditation, or that's when I'm going to do X. You know, like it's all actually in my schedule, right? And for some people, like, oh, I don't want to be so scheduled. I want to be free. But what I've learned is that being scheduled allows me to then achieve the things that I want to achieve, and then allows me to have freedom in my downtime.
Okay. I've got a random one for you.
Yeah, throw it away.
Now, I, like we're talking about, I generally am up very early hours of the morning, whether it's for work or I just wake up. I've got a bad habit. Now, I'm a bad sleeper at the best of times. If I wake up at 3 o'clock, whether I'm working or not, I'm awake. And I jump on my phone. And I'm probably on my phone or on the laptop or on the TV right up until bedtime. I'm not a reader. I don't find that sitting there reading something relaxing for me. That's not how I learn or get educated or entertain. How much does screen time, I suppose, in those two areas, whether you're trying to fall asleep and have a good night's sleep, because I hear there's studies that you should put the phone away or avoid bright lights and things like that for X amount of time or whatever before you go to bed, and jump. I hear all this stuff as far as you shouldn't pick up your phone the first thing when you wake up. You know, get up, you know, go for a walk or do something or this, that, and the other. When it comes to the phone side of things or electronics, how important are they to have, I suppose, restrictions on those 2 times of the day when you are resting, either falling asleep for a good night's sleep or waking up to start your day? Are they a positive or a negative?
I mean, I think that the science has already shown that it is very, very detrimental. So
I was hoping for another answer.
Sorry.
I was hoping for a different answer.
But my caveat to that is like, there's a, you know, it's like, why do we do what we do when we know better? Like, you know, it's like we're programmed, and especially with social media, like we're programmed with dopamine hits, like every 2 seconds, every time we scroll to the next thing. So the thing is, like, say with the mornings especially, and you know, we spoke a little about this off air, is that if the first thing that you do in the morning is you open up your social media, as an example, like straight away your mind is going into like comparison mode, right? It's going into comparison, and it's going into reaction mode, right? It's reacting to what it's seeing. So beyond the science, the kind of bigger thing around that is like, well, even if like you just gave yourself 15 minutes just to wake up and allow your mind to sort of like boot up a little bit on its own, and to even just take one moment to set an intention for yourself for that day, or to start planning out your day in your head a little bit. Like you have then instead started your day, instead of in reaction, you've started your day with intention. Okay. And then you might then choose to go on social media for a little bit by choice, and that's okay, right? Like if that's what you choose to do, and it works for you. Right. But like I notice for me, like I don't go on social media till I've started my work day, because otherwise I'm trying to get the kids ready, and I'm like just checking Instagram and stuff, and then I'm getting annoyed at them because they're interrupting my Instagram time. And
I can imagine
just started to bring awareness to that, right? And I mean, like, I think everyone's probably heard about like the sleep studies. Yes, it does affect your ability to fall asleep. Like it's scientifically proven that it takes you longer to fall asleep and your quality of sleep will be lower. So if you're okay with that, fine. But if you want to have better sleep, so you have more energy the next morning to wake up and go for that walk, or just be productive that day, or eat healthy because you're not reaching for sugary snacks to fuel your energy because you're tired from the night before. Right. Everything's a cycle. Then it, in my opinion, it's important. But again, like you've just got to have a check-in for yourself to go, is this working for me?
And I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? Like regular check-ins with yourself. Is what I'm doing working? Is it a positive for me? So I want to come to your program now. So talk to me a little bit about that, because we've obviously got a lot of property managers that we work with across all our networks. What is your program all about, and how can it help property managers?
Oh, well, I mean, as an ex-property manager myself, like I know firsthand what that workload is like. I know how demanding it is from all the angles. So, um, through the last few years of then training and helping supporting people, I've realized that there's always a lot of training on, say, growing your rent roll, right? Or there's like lots of support on even like, say, managing arrears and things like that, right? But what there wasn't much of that I noticed was, well, how are you doing? Like that check in for yourself, right? Like, how's your mindset? How do you go managing your stress? For a lot of us, how we manage stress is a direct result of how we were taught to manage stress as a kid. And our parents probably didn't teach us a lot about managing stress. It was just, there wasn't as much emotional awareness as there is these days in parenting. So,
Get over it sort of thing.
yeah. So I kind of looked at what were those core pillars that a property manager would ideally need to really strongly support them to manage the properties and do the arrears and grow the rent roll, right? Like that's the end result.
Yeah.
But to be able to do that, right? Like what are those resources that they need? Like I felt that they needed to have like support on mindset,
Yep.
support to manage their stress, support to better manage their time, and support to manage their own like health and well-being, so that they understood about nutrition and sleep and digital detoxes and those sort of things. So we this is the round 2 of the program that we're running in January, and we had some incredible feedback from the first initial round, and we've sort of fine-tuned it and tweaked it since then. So and we're including even more research that we've learned too, so it'll always be that most up-to-date research that we can find on what will make a difference, so that they're not feeling burnt out and overwhelmed all the time, because it is possible to do it differently.
Yeah, definitely. Now, one probably almost to round it off, so it's one thing for an agent or a person to look after their own wellness and mindset and well-being and all that kind of stuff. What about from an employer level? Because they've got a team, and and guys out there, employers have a rough time as well. We don't always see what goes on behind the scenes of running a business. As business owners, I can tell you, and I'm sure you can agree, running a business can be extremely difficult at the moment. At the moment, can be extremely difficult at times. And you've got to show up and put on a smile. And it's times can be tough at different times for different people. What can an employer do for their staff or their team to make sure that everyone is happy, everyone is healthy, to get the most out of their team? And it's a two-way street. So from an employer point of view, the stuff that you offer is key, isn't it? It really is crucial to make sure that your staff are happy and healthy and all that kind of stuff. What can an employer do to make sure that the environment is a positive one?
Yeah, well, I mean, before putting the program aside, the program itself was like, it was also a big support to stop this burnout in the industries, to prevent the huge turnover that I was seeing for a lot of my clients and their staff, right? Like that's a big piece of it. So having awareness around the wellness and adding some training in it is one piece of it. But like it's a really big picture. Like there's a lot that goes into it, but I think that the simplest thing, right, is, I think you actually just mentioned it, right? Like it's a two-way street. So assuming that everything's fine and assuming that they're all just, they're strong, they're soldiering on, wow, they're really tough, right? Like for me, I think it's actually having like a two-way conversation with your team members. So whether it's a one-on-one every couple of months or every 6 months or even once a year, right? Like I know a lot of people sometimes do performance review type things, but don't include anything around, say, well, how are you doing? Like, how do you feel about your role? Like, what's stressing you out the most at the moment, right? Like, it comes to mind that show that used to be on TV, Undercover Boss. Remember that years ago?
Yes,
right?
I see it on TikTok all the time.
Yeah, and like that show would be like, the bosses are like, oh, everyone's fine, everything's going great, right? And then when they went undercover and went down to the front line of the business, and now I'm not saying for these principals, don't need to go put a disguise on and pretend to be a property manager for the day. Well, you could.
You might learn a few things.
Learn a lot. You would definitely learn a lot.
Definitely.
That's the thing. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe it's go sit in a property management seat for the day and then see, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You'd probably learn a lot. Maybe we should start a TV show.
We should. I would pay to see that, because I think, to come off that point as well, we are at such a shortage for good property managers at the moment, aren't we? It's so hard to find one. And I mean, employers can, and from what I've seen in certain factors, if not everyone's going to come to you and say, I'm not happy. And it'll fester and fester and fester. And I suppose that's the thing at the moment. If you've got a good property manager or a good property management team and you don't want to lose them, or, you know, you really value them and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't say the word prevention is better than cure, but look after them, and do those check-ins.
Yeah. And like, see what they want, right? Like, I know, you know, I think a lot of principals might think like, oh, they're just maybe going to want more money, right? But a lot of them don't necessarily want more money. Like, the property managers that I've spoken to they want some recognition for what they're doing, you know, behind the scenes, in the back office. You know, they're just moving papers. No, like, they're working like effing hard. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear on this thing, but
you can swear on it. Yeah, you can
they're working really hard, right?
Yeah.
But also, you know, a lot of them just maybe want some flexibility. Maybe they just want some staggered hours. Maybe they want a day working at home. Like, it may not be money that they want, or it may just be that, you know, maybe one of them has got an idea. Wow, we just want to start wellness when supporting us as humans, not just as, you know, processors on computers pressing buttons.
And I suppose moving forward, and I know I've said a couple of times, like, to wrap it up, moving forward, how do I say this? GCI, income to the business, is always going to be important, 100%.
Yeah.
But where we're going in with, like you were just saying, as far as flexibility and working from home and all that, rostered days and all that kind of thing, is that going to become the new norm? And should we? I know that we're not going to talk about what happened, but this is kind of where we are at now. It is the new norm, and I've seen some employers struggle to adjust to that. Is it one of those things where, unfortunately, this is where we're at now? This is where the bar's at, and you kind of do need to get with it to retain good staff.
Yes, like, it's my belief that it will become part of and being an employer of choice. So it will become a thing that, you know, it used to be just back in the day, maybe as a property manager, it'd be like, oh, do you have a car allowance included in your package, right? Like, maybe that was like shiny back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, now that's standard, but like, maybe not maybe, I can already see it, and I've spoken to friends in recruitment already, seeing like they're having candidates come forward and saying, I want X. Like, I want a role that has work from home flexibility. I want a role that has like things that, like, a wellness program integrated in their business. Like, it's starting to become, because people, again, it's like coming back to what we said to at the start. It's like people are seeing like, wow, maybe I have goals and financial goals, but it's also like, I want to be a happy human along the way. I want to, you know, spend more time with my family at home than commuting an hour each way in traffic.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's easy to say, yeah, like, maybe get with the times, but, you know, it's, for a lot of us, it's fearful. Like, for a lot of principals, it's going to be fearful around that. Like, how do they manage a team working remotely? They've never done that before.
Yeah.
But it's like, sometimes these things that feel very like foreign and, oh, like, that'll never stick. Like, they will. And unfortunately, then people who don't will potentially, maybe not for a while, get left behind, but they won't get the pick of the crop when it comes to strong candidates.
And this is where we're at now. We're never going back to the way things were, are we?
I don't think so. I think that, you know, maybe one of the benefits or lows, whichever your perspective is, of COVID, right? Like, it did show us that businesses not only survive, but some of them did actually, you know, thrive still with team members working remotely and having that flexibility. And that there's companies, you know, in the UK, there's countries in Europe that have changed to like 4-day work weeks and things. So it's just, we're stuck in this 9 till 5 mentality from the Industrial Revolution. solution, and we're not going to go down that rabbit hole today,
No.
but like
Yes.
it's just, oh, that's the way it is,
Yeah.
right? But it doesn't have to be. Like, I know one business who, like, she runs a property management business. She's got a team of 4, and not one of them, she doesn't have an office. Not one of them has ever stepped foot in an office. Like, she runs it completely online, and everyone works from home.
Yeah.
So it is possible. And it's like, that's a thriving, very fast growing business.
Yeah.
So it's again, that's probably coming back to a mindset shift for the person who's got the fear around it, to really question, well, why am I fearful, and what could I put in place to actually, what would I need to see to show me that it could be effective and possible?
Okay, beautiful. Well, Hermione, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. Guys, whoever is watching this, I personally think that mindset is going to be a really key factor in success this year, and looking, I suppose, at what your goals are and how they align with you. So, Hermione, we'll drop your details everywhere. I've seen a lot of the stuff that you put out on socials. It's awesome. Guys, if you'd like to have a chat about wellness programs or anything like that within your office, get in touch with Hermione. And thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.